Hi Facebook, this is Neil and Sonia.
Hello.
Lovely to be back and lovely to see you. Tonight's subject is going to be
Earthing.
earthing, otherwise known as grounding, I think,
Yeah.
in all its various guises. Do you want to kick off? Because you've got some little stones to share.
Well, I have, but I was going to talk about those a bit later.
Okay, so where should we start? Unrehearsed, as always, and you know this about us, we just go into this, it's a chat. And for those of you who listen to our Saturday morning musing from bed, you'll know that it can be quite random, but hopefully quite interesting, and maybe introducing you to some stuff that you were either not familiar with and you've never heard of before, or that you have heard of, but it's now time to explore. So maybe it's all about being timely.
Yeah, well, also, and I have to say my apologies for the time before last, so the last Facebook Live,
yes.
when my son phoned me on my mobile, even though I said we're recording, but it was something that was important, and he did the right thing. So, but I'm sorry I had to whiz off, but hopefully that won't happen this time.
But we were fine, weren't we? Yeah. We kind of, we coped. Not to say it was the same without Sonia, but we were fine. We were fine. We were fine.
Well, I guess I'll just start then by saying I was first introduced to the idea of grounding when I did my Reiki training and my crystal therapy training. And with the Reiki training, it was about using visualization to grow roots through my feet into the ground, and also a number of other things, wearing certain colours, so grounding colours like browns and blacks, and earthy colours, dark greens. They also help to ground you, and I guess grounding and earthing means that your energy in your body, your aura, and your meridian lines in your body, and our body is made of energy, it's not actually solid, is connected to the earth, basically, isn't it? But Mother Earth, Gaia, however you want to pronounce it, has a huge magnetic pull and force, and we're part of that. Everything is one, and when you're grounded, you are able to be nourished by the energy in the earth, and vice versa. It's like an exchange of energy, I guess. So that's when I first came to it. But you came to it via Reiki too, didn't you?
Well, certainly more recently, it's kind of come into my consciousness that it is a really important thing. I've always been very aware of it. Certainly as a child, when I was in the garden, used to play and spend a lot of time just messing about, playing in the garden, imaginary games, all that kind of stuff that kids do. But I was very, very conscious from a very early age that it was kind of just really important to kind of, this is going to sound really hippie and really weird, but kind of hug things and actually be really kind of in tune with the ground, in tune with trees, in tune with kind of stuff that was growing in nature. Now, that might just sound a bit, oh, here he goes again kind of thing. But actually, when you do it, you can feel it. I think that's the really key thing, is you can really kind of feel the difference. And I think certainly I was very aware, sort of playing in the garden without shoes on, being on a beach, and I was very much drawn, certainly in my late teens and into my 20s, very much, friends who know me at the time will say, you're constantly in the water, you're always at the beach, a lot of surfing. And I think it was in part because I enjoyed the sport, but it was a great part of it, I think, was to do with grounding. And it just felt right to be, feeling the sand on your feet, and it felt right being in the water. And, you talk about, the ions and the kind of electrons and sort of elements, which kind of it's almost magnetic, really, in simple sort of scientific terms. And I think I was very, very conscious of that, and would come away from a surf session sort of feeling very, very different, tired on the one hand, but also really energized on another.
Because for those of you who maybe don't know, and I'm pretty sure I've got this right, that it sounds contradictory, but negative ions are really good for you, and you get negative ions particularly in high concentrations at the top of mountains or on the way up to a mountain and near the sea. So it could be that when you go on holiday and you're holiday abroad, part of the reason you come back feeling so good isn't that you've just had lions and then had a bit of sun, but it could also be that you've received more negative ions from the sea, or if you've been skiing up the mountain, for example. So yeah, that's the negative ions you were talking about, aren't you, when you go surfing? And I think the other thing to say is that people, it's not just about necessarily playing in the garden, although I did that when I was little as well. I used to play down by the stream on my own. But my dad, he is 77 or 78, and he's been a gardener all his life, and he doesn't look his age, and he's really strong. And I'm sure, you know, gardening is a grounding exercise in itself, because you're literally, you know, working with the earth and plants, and you're in the garden the whole time. So there's lots of things you can do to ground yourself, from activities like we've just talked about, being outside, gardening, surfing, walking, climbing. What I do, working with clay, that's grounding, because you're actually manipulating mud, which is from the earth. So that's grounding. But the thing that you were sent the other day by lovely friends of ours.
So Gary and Lara sent us, very good friends, and you may well be watching Gary and Lara, sent us a really interesting video, and we'll put the link in sort of below this particular video clip a little bit later, so that you can follow it through, and it is well worth watching. It's a short video clip of an American guy who back in the 1960s was a cabling engineer, so he would be putting electric cables in, I think he's based in the Midwest, somewhere around there, and he'd be spending a lot of time really just being very, very aware of the pulse of electricity and the pulses of electricity, and kind of how that was actually affecting the people he was kind of serving. And one of the things he figured out, and has since done a lot of research on this and got a lot of scientists and a lot of academics involved, you know, in kind of providing evidence around this whole idea of grounding, is he would basically find ways and methods of connecting things, so objects, people, buildings, and actually literally earthing them. Now, I know we see it sort of in the UK a lot in kind of, say, church towers, where, you know, they have an earthing cable that goes deep into the ground from the top of the tower to the bottom, for lightning strikes, for example. But the whole principle behind this is very much the same. And what this guy found, and as I say, the link is going to be below this video, hopefully by the time you watch it, if you're not watching us live now. And he's gone through this whole kind of, like, over the decades, with all this research, really kind of proving the value of being grounded. And one of the simplest things that he describes is the process of walking barefoot. And you know, a lot of the video is actually of him walking barefoot, and friends who are kind of advocates of this. And again, you know, professionally very, very experienced people who have kind of both felt it themselves and for their families, but have also done the research that kind of backs up the stuff that Sonia was just talking about.
It was interesting for me watching it, because there was a particular holiday I went on back in 1998, a long time ago, and it was a beautiful beach, you know, destination quite far away. Obviously a lovely place to be, but I usually get to 10 days in a holiday, and I've had a lovely time, but I'm quite glad to come home because I love my home and it's my sanctuary. On this holiday, I really didn't want to return. I really felt very connected to the place where we were. And I knew at the time a big part of that was because where we were, nobody wore shoes, so you walked around barefoot. You didn't have to, but that's what most people did. It was a sand island, so very easy to do. It was clean, so you weren't worried about standing on things. And I noticed on that holiday how massively relaxed and calm I was compared to other holidays. I seemed to ease into the holiday much quicker. Normally it takes me about 3 days, and I didn't want to leave. And when we watched this video the other night, I thought, do you know what? I knew it was about my feet and wearing no shoes, but this was the reason why, because he was explaining, of course, as soon as sneakers or trainers were invented with rubber soles, really, as a society, we lost the ability to be earthed, because rubber is insulating us. And I thought, gosh, that's why I enjoyed that holiday so much, because I was barefoot the whole time. And it just made me feel so rejuvenated and relaxed.
It's so simple, and I think this is the point of the video. When you watch it, you'll see it is just such a simple concept. You know, the evidence is there, the science is there to back it up. You know, this is not something you have to necessarily invest in. You don't have to be spending money to do this. It's about just thinking about being outside and being connected. The one thing that is covered in this video is the idea that, you know, as children, you know, you wake up in the morning, you're in the house, you put your shoes on, you go outside, you play in a playground that's tarmac or asphalt or whatever it's at the base of the playground. You then go inside, you then come back outside in the sort of after school clubs, and you play on, you know, concrete kind of surfaces. You then come home, you sit inside, and children are now losing the ability to ground, and the whole thing that translates into, and this was the key thing in terms of health and wellness, is that it really inhibits, or well, I say inhibits, it's the opposite of inhibits, it fosters inflammation. And what they're saying is there's lots of research and evidence now that says if you do ground yourself consistently, inflammation in whatever form that manifests in your body is significantly reduced. And some of the surveys that we've had a little look at since, it's only over the last few days.
There's a real correlation. There's a significant correlation.
Significant, yeah, absolutely.
So lots of medical people have done these tests now. And what I didn't understand fully, the phrase of inflammation, but basically, as far as I understand, all disease is a form of inflammation in the body. So if you can earth and ground yourself, which reduces inflammation, you are going to be healthier and more likely to be disease-free, which was quite amazing, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I thought that was really, really interesting. So what was the other thing I was going to say? I remember another thing that always stood out for me, talking about taking your shoes off. We all remember the film Pretty Woman,
Yes.
with Richard Gere. Do you remember the bit at the end when he decides that he is going to propose to her with the rose in the open-top car? Well, just before that, what he does is he takes his shoes on, socks off, and he walks in the park barefoot, because they did that together earlier on in the film. Do you remember that bit?
I don't remember that bit.
Well, it's always...
It's really important to you.
It is, and it's always stuck in my mind, because when I watched that film for the first time and they did that, and then he did that later on, the reason he did it was he wanted to get clarity about what to do, whether to propose. And in this film, it was talking about, as well as earthing you and reducing inflammation, so reducing disease in the body, being earthed also increases your ability to concentrate and I think brain activity. So it does help you to get clearer thought, which is what Richard Gere was doing in the film. I remember watching it and thinking, I so get that, because I remembered as a child feeling what it's like to have dewy grass in between your toes. And it immediately makes you, it immediately just makes you feel lighter and lifted and fresher and clearer. I mean, it's amazing, really. And like the time we went walking last year.
Couple of years. Well, no, it was a couple of years ago now.
Was it a couple of years?
Yeah, we were walking in some mountains, and we'd stop for just a little break and something to eat. And I think it was you'd said, "Oh, I must just check because it feels like I've got some blisters coming on." So you took your boots off, and you decided then just to walk a little while on this grass, which was fortunately, sort of quite peaty grass at the top of this mountain. And so I had to go as well, and it was unbelievably nice.
So we continued to walk
as far as we possibly could.
Without shoes. And it was this lovely black peat, wasn't it? Grass as well. But it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
it kind of, I don't know, raised the walk, up a level, didn't it? We love walking anyway, but it seemed to just bring another element to it. So there's definitely something in this.
Yeah.
And actually, because of the film last night, we started to look. There are some products online that you can buy that earth you while you sleep, because the other thing that earthing does is it apparently makes you sleep much better if you are earthed while you sleep. So there are a number of things you can do, aren't there? So you can buy an earthing sheet or a grounding sheet, which seems to be made of a particular thin cotton fabric with silver woven in it.
That's the conductor.
And you put it on top your fitted sheet or your your base sheet of your bed, so you should have contact with it when you sleep. So we've ordered one, haven't we?
We're going to experiment.
So we'll let you know what it's like.
We'll let you know in the comments below in the next few
yeah.
weeks as to the effect it's had. And
so that'll be really interesting. So I'm even thinking, if it works for us, then I'm thinking I'll order it for my son and daughter, because my son's about to go through GCSEs. So if it can help him have better sleep and better brain functioning, then that would be a bonus.
It certainly helps.
So it'll be really interesting to see what that's like. And then I was just going to say about my experience today. So that was last night, ordering the grounding sheet and watching the film and thinking about it. Today I went to my studio, which is in Almondsbury, in the countryside near where I used to grow up. And that my studio is a little kind of wooden hut that I rent. It's lovely, but it's raised off the ground on a slab of concrete, and then there's a wooden hut. I had previously, a couple of weeks ago, had kinesiology, which I do regularly because it really works for me. And the kinesiologist said to me, have you thought about improving your grounding when you're at your art studio? And I thought, well, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but I was aware that I wasn't feeling 100% at home there. So I went today and kind of assessed the area, and sure enough, it's raised by concrete. But what was really interesting, and I haven't told you this yet, that when I first set the studio up in January, I was worried about the wooden floor because it's beautifully done and it was quite new. So I put quite thick plastic sheeting down all over the floor, and then put all my furniture out so the plastic sheeting is there and my clay doesn't make a mess. I've never felt quite happy about it, but I thought, well, I need to do that because I want to protect the floor. So when I got there today, one of the other ladies popped in to chat to me, and she said, oh, why have you got the plastic sheeting down? And I said, well, to protect the floor. And she then, just something in my head went after our conversation last night, and I thought, actually, well, plastic's not that dissimilar to rubber, really. I'm going to take the plastic sheet away. And you know what? It has completely transformed the room. And I just feel totally different about it. And I feel totally different when I'm in the room as well. And it made me think, I'm sure I've improved my ability to ground and earth while I'm in the studio. So although it is raised off the ground, and there are other things I can do to further improve it. For instance, you can buy these grounding kits, which are like a piece of metal, aren't they, which you put in the ground, and then a piece of wire connects the piece of metal to a windowsill or a door or a part of the house or whatever you're wanting to connect. So I might do that as well. But I thought, wasn't that interesting? Because honestly, it's just totally different now. My experience standing on the floor working in there, I feel a different person to how I was when I was stood on plastic.
There's something in this, and there's something to play with, I think, here, isn't there?
So that also makes me wonder now what it's like. Vinyl floors can't be that great, because I'm sure wooden floors would be better than vinyl floors, wouldn't they? Because wood feels more grounding, because it's natural.
Maybe.
So I don't know. But the final thing I was going to show, because I thought, well, not everyone is going to maybe feel like they want to visualise roots growing through their feet or spend the money on a grounding sheet. It reminded me of these little things. So I don't know if you can see them, but these are called bogie stones. And you can see one is smooth, this one, and one has got a much rougher texture to it. So the rougher one is male and the smooth one is female, and you buy them in pairs. They come in pairs. They are found naturally in Kansas in the USA, only in that place. I don't know why. But they are excellent for grounding your energy and clearing your aura. They're good to wear on your person in a pocket either side. And so that is something that you can buy at a crystal shop, and you can wear and help yourself to feel grounded. So I just thought I'd share those because, again, last night I remember I had them next to my bed in a little trinket pot, but actually I slept with them under my pillow last night. And I did have a good night's sleep. I mean, I usually do sleep well, but certainly worth trying that as an interim measure. And yeah, they become nice little friends actually. So because one is male and one is female, the idea is that they balance your female and male energies as well, the yin and yang in your body. So that's an extra benefit. I believe they're made of pyrite and marcasite. So yeah, might be worth trying some Boji stones as well.
So we've got a few choices here. Got some things to play with. We're looking at taking your shoes off. We're looking at spending more time literally outside and just really enjoying being connected. We're looking at potentially looking at products which allow you to kind of ground whilst you sleep. And I think for me the big thing is just being a little bit more aware of connection, really. I think that's for me what this is all about, and just kind of figuring out what works for you. So we're not here to tell you you've got to do this, you've got to buy this, you've got to buy that. I think it's just about being a little bit more mindful about kind of what makes you feel good and what makes you feel right, and you'll figure it out. You know, I think we're obviously on this journey and exploring a few products now, but it does.
But
feel
it just
good.
feels so natural. It feels like what we're
As it
supposed to
should.
do as humans.
As it should.
So yeah, let us know. Comment below. Send us a message. Let us know if you try it and how you find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you very much for joining us on this particular session. You got anything more you want to say?
No, I think that's it.
So I think we're done. So enjoy your earthing, enjoy your grounding, whatever you want to call it, and let us know how it all goes. And we'll see you again very, very soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.